Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another video. Hope you're all out there doing well. Hope everyone's having a great day. Hope that you're all doing absolutely fantastic. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. There are links in the description below the video. Very big thank you to everyone who leaves a like as well on every single video. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Yes, so in case you were living under a digital rock, discussions of alt season, altcoin season, doesn't matter what you call it, it's not even that they're picking up. The idea of it is sky high. There was recently something from, what's this guy's name? Peter something. There's so many Peters within the space. The older gentleman, I can't remember his name. He recently released a chart discussing that everything seems to be A-okay and that we are officially in altcoin season and that prices from this point on are basically going to continue moving higher. Sprinkled throughout the last 2 weeks, we have had a large amount of Ethereum-based alt season news in that, as we've gone over before, if Ethereum does well within the market, altcoins also do extremely well. So there have been a number recently, a large number of calls for Ethereum to go over 7,000 to hit 10,000 within the next couple of months. So, the time frame is relatively around September or October. That's a lot of what we've been getting. And coupled with that, a lot of news about Ethereum-based companies. So you've seen that we've had a lot of news about companies who are buying large amounts of Bitcoin. We've had a sprinkle about XRP, but we seem to be in this new phase where company demand for Ethereum is constantly pushing up further. The amount of ether that you think is there is not actually there. Supplies on exchanges are as low as they were a decade ago, 10 years ago when the coin first launched. I think almost a third of the entire supply of ether is now being staked. We saw, this was earlier in the year, the wallet addresses that are associated with Trump, they were buying the largest amount of ether. And now it appears that, just logically speaking, as I've said countless times, the only way to create new ether is by having ether. And it looks like all the rich people want all of the ether because of the signing of the multiple bills that have to, and I mean, we're focusing here on the idea of stable coins. If you missed any of those videos about 2 weeks back at this point, there was a lot of speculation, price prediction, fervor, energy thrown around Ethereum based off of the idea that Ethereum is going to go a lot higher because the banks and institutions are buying large amounts of Ethereum because this is where a lot of the US banks are planning on building their stable coins. If they're building their stable coins and they end up doing cumulatively all the banks trillions of dollars worth of transactions on this one chain, it therefore then makes Ether and Ethereum undervalued currently as we see it right now. The amount of companies talking about Ethereum and buying Ethereum and wanting Ethereum and throwing out this entire, reserve treasury kind of energy is also spiking as well. A company by the name of, ironically enough, Bitmine Bitmine Immersion Technologies, the Ethereum treasury strategy firm backed by prominent tech investor Peter Thiel, has apparently amassed over $1 billion worth of ETH after buying another $500 million this week of ETH already. If you didn't see one of the other videos, there's a lot of, and I mean, it is relative speculation. They want all of it, but people are pretending like it's just like a finger point focused, narrow kind of thing. There have been a couple of times where we saw that BlackRock actually ended up purchasing more Ether in a day than they did Bitcoin. This buying is happening from the institutional side, and it just happened to be that some days they wanted more ETH than they did actual Bitcoin. It's not that they're choosing Ether over Bitcoin. They want them both. They want all of these coins for themselves. But we are seeing as Ether is apparently hyper undervalued, it is a lot easier to actually accumulate large amounts of Ether than it is large amounts of Bitcoin. Ethereum's price would have to be, what is it, 5, 6, 7x? Is it 20, 21, 19, 120, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Yeah, Ethereum's price would have to be roughly around 20,000 to 24,000, somewhere in that ballpark, to actually match Bitcoin, like, market cap wise. Therefore, it is a lot easier for these companies to buy huge amounts of Ether, destroy any remaining amount that's on crypto exchanges, and kind of secure their position as the only holders of Ether. That's how you kind of would do it as a mega rich company. It'll take less than a year to get all the remaining amount that they actually need. And then once again, the only way to create Ether is by owning it. And they're currently buying all of it. The New York Stock Exchange listed company said in a Thursday press release that it now had 300,600, that's a lot, 300,657 ETH, making it the largest publicly traded corporate holder of the second biggest cryptocurrency by market cap. They said, and I do quote, "Acquiring $1 billion of ETH is a clear signal of our conviction in Ethereum's long-term value. We are committed to Ethereum's continued growth and look forward to advancing our Ethereum treasury strategy," end quote. There was also something recently with, what's this guy's name? I don't know. Some other bigwig, one of the other really rich, wealthy people who's been in this space for a couple of years, recently also announced that he just purchased, I think, 10% or 15% of a company who announced that they're kind of completely just going after ETH. And the long and short of it is, if this keeps happening, we are going to see magnificently wonderful Ethereum prices. If we see Ethereum pushing towards $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 within the next couple of months because of all this buying, altcoins are also going to completely surge as well. This is all completely long overdue. This is, something that could have taken place months ago. But the fact that we're here, it's like, okay, cool. But I think we're going to start experiencing some really intense movements very soon. Bitmine shifted from a Bitcoin mining company to create an ETH treasury in late June and reported holding around $500 million worth of ETH just 3 days ago. That's a little weird to go from. I mean, I would assume it's probably a lot easier to accumulate ETH, but to go from a Bitcoin mining company, that's like focusing exclusively on Tron and Tether and then announcing that Cardano and XRP are your new thing. It just seems a little, maybe they just weren't as profitable and they found an easier way to be able to do so. The company's leadership wants to amass 5% of the total ETH supply ultimately. That's equivalent to more than $20 billion at ETH's current market value. This is what I'm talking about. 5% of Bitcoin is not $20 billion. It's a huge, gargantuan amount of money. If these companies are buying $1 billion just willy-nilly whenever they want of these coins, I assume behind the scenes there's some kind of, the word's not conspiring, but discussions being had like, hey, we can get this done really fast. We own all of it. And then we can kind of focus on something else. There's not a lot of ether really floating around for these institutions. Don't forget, these aren't the only companies who are doing so. There have been a lot of rich people accumulating ether for a very, very, very long time. Even if the rumors do hold true, rumors, 1/100th of all ether is currently being held by MAKEOVER. If you repeat that, if we get 90 more companies announcing this, all the ether, I mean, even then, ether is also being held by the people from Ethereum and the Ethereum Foundation and these companies in the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. I wonder how much ether is actually liquid, like actually available. 20 million, 30 million ether, right? That's the BitMine Immersion Technologies. Now has over $1 billion worth of ether. And yeah, let's move on. This is also tying close to it. And they also have a very weird name as well, which is also quite fascinating. A company by the name of Bit Digital. Yes, this feels like another Bitcoin company that is no longer a Bitcoin company. Has apparently expanded their Ethereum holdings to over 120,000 ether, converting recent capital into a long-term outlook, if you will, on Ethereum's role in the evolving digital economy. This all shifted, changed relatively 3 weeks ago. Once those bills got signed, we have had a lot of news about companies who are focusing very heavily on Ethereum. We have heard thus far, if I remember correctly, 4 or 5 different banks announced previously that if the stablecoin bill and regulatory clarity came out, that they would be working with Ripple and working and building on top of Ethereum. I assume 20 more banks. Listen, really, like where did all this energy come from? We had 2 companies before who announced that they were looking into Ethereum. It was the company from Joseph Lubin and one other one. And they were like, yeah, we're going to buy like 10 million worth of ether. This is what I was talking about before. We had relatively low numbers. Everyone was giving us 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 million. And then out of nowhere, these numbers begin to skyrocket. And for Ethereum, once again, going over daily cryptocurrency news, this came out of relatively left field. So I'm going to assume in the coming weeks, we are going to begin hearing a lot about Ethereum, a lot about new companies buying it, about price predictions, where things are going to go, exactly how big. I mean, we've already seen huge amounts of price predictions as well. The normalist ones being $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000 per ether over the course of soon. And then the craziest one being the 1.5 million, but that was meant to be like total domination of the market. If Bitcoin ends up being 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 million, Ethereum would then be around 1 point something million as well. It says Bit Digital converts $67 million raise into strategic Ethereum play with an additional 19,683 ETH. Bit Digital purchased another 19,000, almost 20,000 ETH to their balance sheet, using proceeds from a $67 million registered direct offering to institutional investors. According to the announcement, the move brings the company's total Ethereum holdings to 120,306 Ether. More than just an investment, Bit Digital's approach includes active participation in Ethereum's ecosystem. Well, duh, I assume they're staking it. There's no downside to holding 120,000 Ether and then staking it. Like, you are making Bakuda bucks. Like, you are making a huge, large amount of Ether that can potentially continue perpetually forever. Also, I mean, not to talk about DeFi, but there are some protocols that a lot of crypto exchanges have kind of wrapped themselves around. So if you can manage, to find the protocols that are red flags, if someone's offering you 10, 15, 20% per year, that's probably a little scammy. But if you're getting an indication that something is going to give you 2.5, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5.5, 6% esque, somewhere around there, of course you would participate in the actual ecosystem itself. The company operates validators and stakes them. There we go. And stakes the majority of its ETH, generating native yield while contributing to the network's performance and security. Sam Tabar, the CEO, explained the company's view on Ethereum staking by stating, "We view Ethereum as foundational to the next phase of digital financial infrastructure, and we remain committed to scaling our ETH holdings as part of its long-term strategy." With approximately 120,000 ETH, Bit Digital is positioning among the largest institutional Ethereum treasuries in the public markets. Right. So once again, I'm going to assume this is not a fly-by-night thing. We heard nothing twice. We heard two things in 6 months, and now it seems to be every day, if not every other day. This is going to continue to be a thing. Yeah, it's fascinating to see that we are kind of like here. We're at the point where adoption is completely going off the rails and everyone's buying up all of it, but it's because mathematically it won't take a lot of money for these companies to buy the rest of it. We had news years ago that there were 7 million Bitcoin on exchanges, and then that was 5, and then that was 3 something, and now we're resting around, 2? Same exact thing for Ether. So maybe those 2029 price predictions will actually come true for all these coins because there's not a lot left. Yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope that it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.